The stars above Earth shimmered like they had for millennia, indifferent to the tension rising aboard Resolute Dawn. In orbit above the blue and green sphere, the warship's bridge was silent, anticipation pressed down heavier than gravity. Commander Ilara Mbeki stood at the center, her uniform crisp, hands clasped behind her back. Her dark eyes locked on the flickering holographic projection of the incoming transmission. "Signal locked," reported Lieutenant Soren. "It's them." "Open the channel," Ilara said, voice like steel drawn across stone. The projection stabilized. A Krell stood in the middle of the glowing display, tall, armored in ceremonial plates, and draped in the crimson sash of Council authority. 4 golden eyes blinked slowly, each move calculated and cold. This was no envoy. This was a threat wrapped in diplomacy. "I am Envoy Talsha of the Galactic Council," the alien said, voice guttural but sharpened by the translator. "We bring an official decree from Archon Veltahar. Earth is to render full tribute immediately, material, genetic, and sovereign. Non-compliance will be seen as sedition." Gasps rippled through the bridge crew. Ilara didn't flinch. She stepped forward. "Is that your final message?" Talsha tilted his head. "There is no negotiation. Your species was granted reprieve after your collapse. Now you are to pay your due." Ilara paced slowly, boots echoing across the titanium deck. "We rebuilt from ash without your aid. No food shipments. No medical support. No protection from raiders. Not a whisper from the Council in over a century." Talsha's mandibles twitched. "The Council intervenes when worthy species require guidance. You had none." Ilara turned, facing the projection squarely. "We needed no handouts. And we sure as hell don't need your chains." The Krell blinked, all 4 eyes puzzled. "Are you refusing?" She stepped into the hologram, her gaze cutting through the illusion. "We are stating, clearly and publicly, Earth kneels to no one. Not anymore." Talsha didn't respond immediately. His mouth opened, closed. Then prepared to suffer the consequences of defiance. The channel cut. Silence returned, but it was electric now, tense, alive. Soren turned. "Commander, we just denied the Galactic Council. That's war." "I'm aware." Ilara's tone didn't waver. "Let them come." She turned to face the viewport. Earth rotated below, vulnerable, yes, but unbroken. The silence was broken by the hum of machinery and hurried footsteps. Admiral Reyes entered, tall and grizzled, scars lining his weathered face. "They'll bring a fleet. Maybe a blockade. They want a spectacle." "I know," Ilara said. "Which is why we don't give them one." Reyes arched a brow. "You're thinking diplomacy?" "I'm thinking subversion." Ilara's eyes narrowed. "We don't beat them with brute force. We expose the illusion." He folded his arms. "Veltahar needs compliance. A species defying him openly? If we stand, others will stand." "Exactly," Ilara said. "That's why we must stand. Not just for Earth." Reyes studied her a moment longer, then nodded. "All right. But we need to move fast. Council fleets don't wait for committees." Ilara turned to her comms officer. "Send an encrypted transmission to Luna Command. Code Black. Full mobilization." "Yes, ma'am." She glanced toward the viewport again. From orbit, Earth looked so serene, as if history weren't about to be written in fire. Hours later, in the war room of Resolute Dawn, Ilara stood before a projection of Council-controlled space. Red zones pulsed where known fleets were stationed. A blinking dot indicated a small detachment already en route to the Sol system. "They're not wasting time," Reyes muttered. "Neither are we," Ilara said. "Activate our listening posts in the Kuiper Belt. I want every scrap of intel on that fleet before they hit Mars orbit." Reyes raised a hand. "If they enter our system and we fire first, they'll spin it as an unprovoked attack." Ilara looked to him. "They came with the threat of force. I'm not waiting for them to strike civilians. We intercept them in space, far from Earth." Reyes nodded, then gestured toward the map. Still, it's not enough. We need allies. Ilara's expression darkened. The neutral fringe worlds. They don't like the Council any more than we do. They won't help us directly. No, she agreed. But they'll spread the word. The Council's grip is fragile. It only holds as long as everyone believes it's unbreakable. Reyes grinned slightly. So we break it. Ilara tapped a control on her wrist. The projection shifted to a schematic of Resolute Dawn. We have tech they've never seen. Thanks to ArcStation, we've reawakened weapons from the old wars. Railguns, cloaking field, AI integration. You sure we're ready? We've had 100 years to prepare. And nothing sharpens a blade like extinction. Later that night, Ilara stood alone in the observation deck. Stars stretched endlessly ahead. Somewhere out there, Veltahar sat in his crystal chamber, certain he would crush the humans beneath his polished boot. Let him try. A voice broke the silence behind her. You really think we can do this? It was Soren. Young, idealistic. Still green, but fiercely loyal. She didn't look back. They think because we were quiet, we were weak. They think because Earth burned, we were finished. He stepped beside her. But we weren't. No, Ilara nodded slowly. We rebuilt. In silence. In shadow. We became wolves again. Soren watched her for a moment, then said softly, They won't see it coming. Ilara finally looked at him. They never do. Below them, Earth rotated slowly, still scarred, still healing, but alive. And for the first time in a century, ready to fight back. The first of the Council ships breached the edge of the solar system 3 days later. A sleek, dagger-shaped cruiser named Veilrix, cloaked in shimmering reflective plating and powered by a tachyon core, slipped past Pluto's orbit. Its engines were silent, but its intent thundered through every sensor in the Kuiper belt. It wasn't just here to deliver a message. It was the message. Commander Ilaram Beki stood on the bridge of Resolute Dawn, eyes fixed on the data streaming across the display. The alien cruiser moved like a predator that had never known fear. A mistake. Position? She asked calmly. Lieutenant Soren adjusted the holographic interface. 10 million kilometers from Neptune. It hasn't deviated since entry. Same heading, Earth. Estimated time until Mars orbit? 40 hours if it maintains velocity. Less if it boosts. Ilara turned to her tactical officer. Deploy the Phantom Wing. Captain Juno Kim, a woman with the controlled energy of a drawn bowstring, nodded. Acknowledged. Launching now. A soft tremor passed through the deck as 3 black ships slipped from the hidden bays beneath Resolute Dawn, sleek, wedge-shaped stealth craft designed for deep space interception. No hull lights, no broadcast. They were invisible to most sensors, moving through the void like shadows with purpose. Rules of engagement? Juno asked. No kills unless fired upon, Ilara replied. We let them see us first. Let them feel watched. Aboard the Veilrix, Subcommander Drellick stood tall at the command dais. His species, the Yethari, had evolved on a world of acid clouds and volcanic deserts, hard environments that bred arrogance in survival. The humans were said to be chaotic, violent, unrefined. Drellick had expected desperation. What he hadn't expected was silence. No transmissions. No warnings. Just emptiness. We have detected anomalous gravimetric readings, one of the ship's engineers said. Define anomalous, Drellick snapped. Localized distortions. Very faint. Patterned. He frowned. That was no natural phenomenon. Raise shield harmonics. Adjust passive sensors. Focus forward and flanks. Yes, Sub-Commander. The crew obeyed without question. That was the Yethari way. Command was absolute. Disobedience was death. But beneath the practiced discipline, unease slithered like oil on water. Phantom Wing's lead pilot, Lieutenant Commander Valles, adjusted his visor as the Council cruiser came into range. The ship was massive, twice the size of his stealth craft, but it flew blind, trusting its dominance to protect it. They've adjusted their sensors, Valles reported over the encrypted link. They're starting to sweat, came the reply from Phantom 2. Permission to buzz the hull? Valles paused. Permission granted. Keep your shadow intact. The three craft split formation, silent and invisible, maneuvering around Veilrix. One dived low, skating just outside the cruiser's sensor envelope. Another looped behind, close enough to detect thermal signatures from the engines. Inside the Veilrix, Drellic's eyes widened. There, motion. I saw it. But the systems still read nothing concrete. Phantom Wing had trained for this. Calibrated their heat dispersal, minimized EM traces. To the Veilrix, it was like being stalked by ghosts. Drellic slammed his hand on the control panel. Initiate active scans. The ship's sensors flared to life, blasting out a cone of energy in all directions. Desperate, clumsy. But that was exactly what Alara had wanted. Back aboard Resolute Dawn, the data lit up. Got it, Soren said. Their pulse bounced off our shadows. Now we have their scan range, rotation cycle, and defense alignment. We can fly a freighter through their blind spot. Alara smiled slightly. Good. They're nervous. Make them more nervous. The Council fleet was not just a war machine. It was theater. Spectacle. It relied on intimidation, not subtlety. But Earth's new generation of defenders had studied fear and learned to silence it. Alara walked into the strategy chamber, where Admiral Reyes stood reviewing fleet positions. A second cruiser had just dropped from FTL near the edge of Saturn's orbit. They're arriving faster than expected, Reyes muttered. They're afraid this might spread, Alara replied. Or they're afraid of us. Alara nodded. Same thing. She brought up a new projection, transmission logs from fringe colonies in the Veil Nebula and Helix cluster. Murmurs of support. Subspace chatter. Council loyalists were growing nervous. And the Independents? They were watching. If we hold here, it won't stop with Earth, Reyes said. Other species will stop paying tribute. They'll start asking questions, Alara added. And the Council's greatest weapon, obedience, will break. Reyes looked at her, eyes sharp. That's what this war is really about. It always was. Aboard the Veilrix, Drellic finally snapped. I want a full weapons test. Fire a warning shot into the asteroid field ahead. His crew hesitated. Firing weapons now, on what amounted to neutral territory, would be an act of aggression. Now, he roared. The forward railgun charged and spat a hypersonic round into the belt beyond Neptune. It slammed into a drifting rock and shattered it into dust. Silence followed. No retaliation. No trace of enemies. Just emptiness. Then the lights flickered. The bridge crew froze. Was that interference? The engineer asked. No, the navigator whispered. That was a ping. The humans had returned a signal. Not a broadcast, but a whisper sent directly into Veilrix's neural comms. 4 words appeared across every terminal. You are not alone. Drellic's blood chilled. The message was not a threat. It was a fact. He turned to his helmsman. Set course for the moon. We're establishing orbit. I want eyes on Earth. The Veilrix adjusted course, unknowingly exposing its underbelly, right into Phantom Wing's mapped attack vector. Back on Resolute Dawn, Alara watched the maneuver. They're scared. Let them come closer. Reyes leaned in. We strike. Not yet, she said. Let them orbit. Let them look down on us and believe we're weak. We'll show them strength not in firepower, but in the fact we haven't even fired yet. The next message sent from Earth was broadcast not with guns, but with clarity. It was Alara herself, standing in full uniform before the old UN banner, speaking into the void. To the Galactic Council, you came expecting subjugation. You expected fear. What you have found is a species forged in ruin, tempered by time, and ready for war. We do not seek conquest. But we will not kneel. Earth is not alone. And soon, neither will be those who've suffered your rule. In deep space, the words echoed. Across colonies, outposts, and shattered resistance cells, eyes turned toward Earth. Not as a relic, but as a spark. And sparks, when nurtured, become fire. The Galactic Council's Hall of Verdicts had never been this quiet. 10,000 light-years away from Earth, encased in the crystalline throne world of Sundar Prime, the most powerful beings in the known galaxy sat in tense silence beneath the domed chamber of judgment. The floor, a translucent pane of compressed starlight, reflected their expressions: confusion, insult, and for the first time in a generation, concern. High Chancellor Virax broke the silence. "Are we truly debating the will of one backward world?" he said, his voice as sharp as the obsidian plating on his ceremonial armor. "A rogue planet dares defy the tithe, and we hesitate?" A Cernari delegate spoke, scales glittering faintly beneath her robe. "The humans did not defy with weapons. They defied with unity. That is rarer." Virax sneered. "Unity born of delusion. They're surrounded, outgunned, and unaligned." "Yet," murmured an older voice from the back. It came from Counselor Braylon, a frail, gray-skinned Drossari whose words carried more weight than many fleets. "They speak to our weaknesses without lifting a weapon. That is dangerous." A murmur rippled through the chamber. The humans had broadcast again, this time not just to the Council but to every system within range. Unfiltered, raw. The message was simple. "We are not your servants. We are not your tribute. We are human, and we remember." It wasn't defiance. It was declaration. Virax slammed his staff into the floor. "Then we make them remember us. Send a full detachment. Not a gesture. An answer." Back on Earth, General Kyra Hall stood at the edge of a frozen cliff in the Rockies, wind howling through her combat parka. Behind her, the glacier base buzzed with quiet preparation. Drones swept the skies. Mechs calibrated their railguns. Civilians were being moved underground in quiet, efficient streams. Elara approached from the south ridge, boots crunching through snow. "They're coming," Kyra said without turning. Elara nodded. "Confirmed. 3 capital ship. 2 destroyer screens. Not probes this time. An invasion fleet." They both stared into the horizon, where clouds curled like fists over the peaks. "They think we're bluffing," Kyra said. "They'll find out we're not." Elara exhaled, breath steaming. "They always do. Just not before it's too late." On board the Council flagship Zelavan, Admiral Ithar was in a different kind of storm. Reports streamed in faster than he could process. Human relays were rerouting jamming signals. Orbital defenses had mobilized without warning. Even worse, dozens of colony outposts had gone dark, some by choice, others in revolt. "Earth's influence is spreading," his adjutant said. "We detected coded burst messages from Mars to outer fringe colonies. A declaration of sovereignty, using Earth's language." Ithar stared at the hologram of Earth. "It's not their strength," he murmured. "It's their infection." He looked to his tactician. "Initiate Operation Silence. Cut every satellite, every uplink. Blind them. No more words." Back on Earth, systems began to blink out. The night sky turned starless. Civilian comms failed. Orbital links fizzled into static. The enemy wasn't just invading with ships, they were severing Earth from the galaxy. Soren slammed his hand on the terminal. "We've lost Lunanet. Relay towers on the Martian archipelago are down." Juno cursed under her breath. "They're trying to shut our voice." Elara didn't flinch. "They've made their mistake." She tapped a command into her pad. Beneath the Rockies, massive generators hummed to life. Earth had anticipated silence. Deep in a mountain bunker, engineers activated the Archangel, a relay drone built from stolen tech, wrapped in human innovation. It launched straight into the blackout, silent and invisible, arcing toward Europa's shadow where an old resistance satellite waited for resurrection. Meanwhile, the Phantom Wing returned. Their ships limped back, scorched and cracked. Valles landed hard, his cockpit sparking. Elara met him on the deck. They fired first, he rasped. I thought they might, she said grimly. We tagged their weak point before we disengaged. Their fusion array vents along an exposed spine. It's fast but brittle. Juno leaned in. We can cripple the fleet before they even break the atmosphere. We will, Elara said. But not yet. In the dark corridors of Sindar Prime, Counselor Braylon moved with purpose. Not toward the hall, but away from it. He entered a low-lit chamber where 3 other delegates waited. Have the others spoken? He asked. A tall avian nodded. The colonies in the Argent Spur are stirring, and the Sylvari have refused to dispatch their fleet. Then it begins, Braylon said. The fracture. Another delegate whispered, if Earth endures, the illusion of control dies. Braylon smiled thinly. Then may they endure long enough. As the Council fleet reached Earth orbit, lights flickered across the planet. Then returned. A new signal beamed from Europa. Clear. Undeniable. It spoke with one voice. To those watching from the shadows, you are not alone. If you wait for the right moment, it will never come. Make it now. It wasn't just a message. It was a call. And somewhere in the void, colonies listened. On a gas mining rig above Relethus, workers tore down council flags. In a jungle city on Varn Prime, rebel transmitters came alive for the first time in decade. And in a deep space port orbiting Eros 9, a mercenary captain smiled and said, looks like the humans just lit the galaxy on fire. The Council's attack fleet prepared to descend, unaware that their data stream had been breached. Elara stood in the command center, watching the orbital schematics real-time. Phase 2 begins, she said. Kyra nodded. We're in position. All across Earth, railgun platforms rotated. Stealth drones waited in high-altitude flight paths. Orbital mines drifted like debris. The trap was set, not to destroy the fleet but to expose it, to show the galaxy how the Council reacted to defiance, with overwhelming force. Because the truth wasn't just that humans refused to bow. It was that they never needed to. And now the galaxy would see. The first blast lit up the sky over Earth like a false dawn. A Council destroyer, Krexelfong, had entered low orbit, its shields humming with radiant plasma. It never made it to atmosphere. One moment it was intact, ominous, descending. The next, it was split open by a precision railgun strike from a hidden mount in the Andes, its fusion core bleeding white fire as it spiraled into the ocean. In Earth's command hub, the room stayed silent for a beat. Then cheers erupted. Target 1 down, reported Juno, eyes fixed on the grid. 2 more on approach, adjusting vectors. They're responding fast. Too fast, Kyra muttered, scanning the tactical overlay. They expected resistance this time. They're baiting. Let them, Elara replied, voice calm. We've prepared for that too. Above, in orbit, Admiral Ithar seethed. They struck first. His second-in-command, Captain Drylax, nodded. But they didn't blind fire. That was surgical. And the breach of our flank during descent, Ithar snapped. Coordinated. Drylax lowered his voice. Admiral, this level of coordination, it's not just Earth. There are signs of auxiliary forces. Some of our own outer colonies haven't responded to recall commands. Ithar turned, slowly. What are you saying? The infection may be worse than we thought. On Varn Prime, a rogue transmission reached an underground commune. A woman in exile watched the footage of Earth's skies lighting up with flames and grinned. They're doing it, she whispered. They're actually doing it. The man beside her, old and half-blind, nodded. The illusion breaks one truth at a time. The screen flickered again. Earth's signal, now reaching further than any should. We are not the enemy of peace. We are the enemy of chains. You have a choice. The message wasn't meant just for invaders. It was bait for rebels. A lit fuse. And across hundreds of fringe systems, sparks began to glow. Back on Earth, Valles led the Phantom Wing high over the Atlantic, targeting an incoming troop carrier. It was massive, 20 decks tall, bristling with drop pods. He signaled his wing. Standard 3-point pincer. No hero runs. Copy that, crackled Rowan. Let's pluck the beast. The jets climbed, dove, and scattered, reforming in a maneuver that no alien pilot would ever dare attempt in atmosphere. Human flight patterns were unpredictable, reckless, and chaotic, which made them effective. As the wing tore across the underbelly of the carrier, explosive drones latched onto its armor. Seconds later, controlled detonations crippled its descent engines, sending the entire behemoth drifting out of trajectory into Earth's magnetosphere. It would burn on re-entry. Scratch another, Valles said, exhaling hard. Tell the ground they'll be picking up melted parts for weeks. In the Rockies, Elara stood at the map table. She didn't smile. She didn't celebrate. Each enemy lost meant escalation. They're sending a second wave, Kyra reported, grim. We can't keep this up forever. Elara nodded. We don't need forever. We just need long enough. Juno interrupted, eyes wide. Incoming transmission, not council. It's Mars. Elara stepped closer. The screen blinked, then resolved into a Martian commander's face. Requesting Earth command. Mars acknowledges Earth's sovereignty. We are no longer under council charter. Standing by for coordination. Kyra blinked. They just broke the leash. Elara's expression barely shifted, but the fire in her eyes burned brighter. Patch them in. We're not fighting alone anymore. Meanwhile, in the deepest corner of the galaxy, Counselor Braylon stood before a quiet assembly of dissenting voices. It was not an official session. There were no titles here, no banners. Only old warriors and thinkers, disillusioned by centuries of masked tyranny. This is the fulcrum, Braylon said. We've spoken of reform for ages. But Earth has done more in a week than we have in 100 cycles. They are reckless, someone argued. They are free, Braylon replied. And that difference is echoing across the stars. No one spoke. The Council's greatest threat wasn't Earth's weapons. It was Earth's example. Back in orbit, the Council flagship moved into position. Prepare the orbital lance, Ithar ordered. We end this. No more signals. No more resistance. Burn their command to ash. A weapon of planetary scale powered up, a lance of energy capable of piercing kilometers of terrain. It was meant for wars of extinction, not discipline. Using it here would be irreversible. Elara watched it unfold on their sensors. They're targeting Denver Command. Juno's voice trembled. That's us. Elara turned to Kyra. Initiate Nova Protocol. Kyra hesitated. You're sure? They're about to cross a line they can't uncross. So must we. Kyra pressed her hand to the embedded scanner. A code-locked sequence initiated across Earth's defense grid. In low orbit, a sleeper satellite came alive, unfolding like a blooming iron flower. Within it, a captured prototype from a failed Council experiment. Re-engineered. Humanized. The Polaris Lance. As the Council's weapon reached full charge, the Polaris Lance fired first. It didn't aim at the flagship. It aimed above it, at a microfracture in a neighboring gravity well the Council had ignored. The result wasn't just a hit. It was a collapse. The flagship was pulled sideways, its systems scrambling against impossible force. Shields failed. Fire erupted from decks. The orbital lance discharged, but missed entirely, scorching the clouds somewhere over the Pacific. Admiral Ithar screamed over the comms. What have they done? Back on Earth, Elara whispered, we made you blink. The message was clear now, not just to the Council, but to the galaxy. Earth had no interest in conquest. But they would never kneel. And they had the will, and the minds, to turn even captured scraps into weapons of equal footing. As fire streaked the sky, rebellion sparked across the stars. On Kirill 4, miners overran a Council garrison. On the moons of Taloth, dissident banners rose in daylight for the first time in centuries. And on hundreds of ships across the void, mercenaries flipped their allegiance, not out of loyalty to Earth, but because they saw which way the current turned. In the council chamber, Virax smashed a data screen. They're not just fighting us. They're unraveling everything. Braylon stood silently. Because he knew, some things needed to be unraveled. The final council cruiser limped out of orbit, trailing smoke and debris. Its engines sparked with instability, shields gone, communications fractured. No retaliation. No threat. Just retreat. Earth's skies cleared slowly, smoke drifting in high-altitude spirals. Beneath that sky, humanity stood, not untouched but unbroken. In the command center, Juno lowered her headset, fingers trembling. They're gone. Confirm it, Elara said, eyes still locked on the map. Telemetry clean. All hostile vessels have left Earth's gravity well. Juno glanced up. We won. Silence followed, heavy and uncertain. Kyra was the first to breathe, long and slow. No celebrations? Elara shook her head. Not yet. High above, the remains of Spear of Ardath, a once glorious symbol of council authority, tumbled in a decaying orbit. Satellites captured its descent. Its broken hull reflected dawn. The image was transmitted system-wide. Not a threat. Not a boast. A reminder. Earth didn't destroy for dominance. They defended to endure. In the former council core on Verelium Prime, Braylon stood alone in the high chamber. The other counselors had fled, resigned, or gone silent. Virax had vanished after a final outburst and a shattered wall screen. The chamber echoed with the weight of collapse. Messages poured in from outposts, embassies, worlds once thought loyal. We renounce the compact. We no longer recognize council jurisdiction. We stand with Earth. The threads of empire, once woven tight, had come undone in days. Not through conquest. Through example. On Mars, the red soil buzzed beneath boots that hadn't marched for Earth in over a century. Now, Martian officers stood in formation, listening to their prime commander speak beside a banner bearing both Earth and Mars insignias. We reclaimed our voice, he said. And we remember who taught us how. The crowd raised fists in silent salute. In a scorched alley of Nairobi, children emerged from makeshift shelters. One of them, barely tall enough to stand on his own, looked to the horizon where a council lander lay crippled, its pilots gone or captured. He pointed. That used to scare me. His older sister smiled and placed a hand on his shoulder. Not anymore. Back in Denver Command, Elara stepped out onto the surface for the first time in 2 weeks. The air was sharp with ozone, still carrying a metallic hint of battle. But the sun was shining. Kyra joined her. We're receiving transmissions every hour now. Venus, Europa, even colonies on the edge of the drift are asking for coordination protocols. Elara didn't look at her. She just watched the birds return to the trees. Earth just became more than a planet, she murmured. We're a signal now. A flare in the dark. Kyra chuckled. A flare with teeth. Meanwhile, in a vast network of void space traders and mercenaries, deals were shifting fast. The market adapted quicker than empires. Human tech, once mocked, was now coveted. Engineering firms began shipping design blueprints. Not weapons. Not war machines. Defenses. Shield harmonics optimized for planetary grids. Communication jammers with open-source architecture. Guerrilla tactics manuals translated into 7 galactic dialects. Earth didn't just fight back. They shared how. And across fractured systems, the seeds of resistance took root. Valles and Phantom Wing returned to their hangar, their craft scorched but intact. Ground crew greeted them with silent nods, no parades. Just respect. He climbed down from the cockpit, helmet in hand. Rowan met him halfway. You think this is really over? She asked. No, Valles said. But it's the end of something. She frowned. What, exactly? He looked to the stars. Fear. In a small studio buried beneath the Rockies, an Earthcaster went live. Her voice cracked at first, then steadied. To the stars listening, this is Earth. We know many of you feel what we felt. forgotten, silenced, bound by a council that claimed peace but practiced dominance. She paused. We didn't start this fight. But we finished it. And now, we offer something more dangerous than war. A beat. Hope. The broadcast loop. Thousands tuned in. Then millions. Then systems began copying it, translating, amplifying, rebroadcasting. It became a beacon. At the same moment, in the ruins of council headquarters, scavengers picked through shattered marble and gold-trimmed steel. A mural lay cracked on the ground, alien hands clasping Earth's under an artificial star. But above it, graffiti now burned in crimson. We bowed once. Never again. In the Andes, Ilara stood with a delegation of Terran nations and Martian reps. Formal diplomacy was underway for the first time in a generation. One diplomat asked her, "What's Earth's next step?" Ilara answered simply, "Heal. Then help others do the same." He raised an eyebrow. "And if the council regathers?" She glanced to the sky. "They won't." Far out beyond the rim, in a system long forgotten, a council prison station lost contact with Central Command. The warden hesitated, then unlocked the lower tiers. Inside, cells opened. Rebels, scholars, whistleblowers, and soldiers exiled for speaking truth stepped into the light. One of them, a human hybrid with pale eyes, looked at the stars and smiled. "Looks like someone finally did it." Earth, once mocked as primitive, chaotic, undisciplined, now carried a weight heavier than any weapon: responsibility. In refusing to bow, they had forced the galaxy to look in the mirror. And what the stars saw was a choice: freedom or fear. And Earth would never choose fear again.